My name is Rachel Kelly and I am the UK National Contact Point for Societal Challenge 6 and also Embedding SSH. ESRC hosts two national contact points, so that's two roles, although I am fulfilling both of those. That's for, as I said, Societal Challenge 6 and also Embedding SSH across H2020. So the main thing that I do is offer a help desk service, which is around the mailboxes, which I mentioned, assisting with all kinds of queries. I also help to maintain the website that ESRC hosts for the NCP role, and also our Twitter account, which is at H2020_SC6_UKNCP. That should just pop up now. So my roles are to raise awareness of the opportunities available to SSH researchers, to encourage the UK's participation in H2020 and to support UK social science at a European level. I cannot give any scientific advice, although I can advise on remit and other submission queries. So H2020 structure, which is hopefully relatively familiar to you all. I would like to just draw your attention to the three pillars. So you've got excellent science, which is the bottom-up section, industrial leadership, and then societal challenges, which is where we'll be focusing this first 45 minutes, specifically on Societal Challenge 6, Europe in a Changing World, Inclusive, Innovative, and Reflective Societies. This is the top-down part of the H2020 programme to promote the culturally rich and socially diverse Europe. The aims are really to provide policy options and wider solutions to help tackle the issues included in the topics I'll mention. This work programme builds on previous work programmes and takes into consideration unprecedented changes like the financial crisis, the huge rises in levels of migration, how Europe fits into the global community. Some elements are focused on innovation, but not solely on innovation, but how this can be used to make society more inclusive instead of perpetuating existing inequalities. Hopefully most of you are familiar with Societal Challenge 6 as the main focus generally of SSH funding, although we will talk about how that fits into the bigger picture later on today. The three major themes are governance, transformations, and migration. So migration, worth 35 million euros overall, focuses on flows, narratives, integration, lessons from the past, how migration is affecting cities, the successful integration of migrants into European host societies, and all of the proposals submitted to the migration topics should have a strong commitment to supporting the UN Sustainable Development Goals. They should be encouraging fact-based and accurate discourses. Transformations, which has the real longer title, Socio-economic and Cultural Transformations Stemming from the Fourth Industrial Revolution, which I will shorten to transformations for this presentation. This is really focusing on the human and social dynamics of the Fourth Industrial Revolution. So it's framed within this Fourth Industrial Revolution, but really from a social science perspective, we should be focusing on the topics included and the notion of transformation and how that's going to affect us societally and economically. The third call, governance, and this is governance for the future. Lots of topics around trust in public institutions, their capacity to address challenges that we raised earlier on in an effective way, and while retaining legitimacy and trust, or regaining that legitimacy, which perhaps has decreased in recent years. So these should think about trust, legal frameworks, and the historical and cultural evolution of governance, as well as multi-level governance. So what do you need to know? Probably some of this is very familiar to a lot of you. The H2020 calls are divided into topics. So there are 24 topics open this year, which are all closing on Thursday, the 14th of March 2019, which is hopefully already indelibly marked in your calendar. There's a link here which I won't click on now, but which you will get in your slides. Just links to a summary page about the basic information on H2020 structure and the calls available. In general, there are no maximum funding or maximum duration limits on any of the proposals unless specified in the work programme. Now, this doesn't mean that there's no guidance. In the work programme and later in this presentation, we'll be giving you guides as to what the Commission expect, how much budget is being allocated roughly or expected to be allocated to each topic, and also the size of projects which they are expecting. But these are not strictly enforced, like with the ESRC calls. All calls are evaluated on excellence, impact and implementation. I've got a link there to the criteria. Excellence is really focused around clarity and pertinence of the objectives, soundness of the concept and credibility of the proposed methodology. Impact is around the extent to which the outputs of the project would contribute to each of the expected impacts mentioned in the work programme under the relevant topic. So really make sure you read the work programme for any topic which you're expecting to apply for. It's the basic advice which I'm going to repeat over and over again. Read the work programme. Quality and efficiency of the implementation. This is around the effectiveness of the work plan, including the extent to which the resources assigned to work packages are in line with their objectives and deliverables. So we should be thinking as well around the makeup of the participants and the makeup of the consortia, so how these participants complement each other and the extent to which the consortium as a whole are greater than the sum of its parts. You can find lots more information in the general annexes. I would also recommend, obviously, that you read these in detail. There's lots of extra information that you can use to really help write the best proposal that you can. We should also remember to take a responsible research and innovation approach. So this means engaging multiple actors, integrating gender and ethical dimensions, and geographical scope is also really important. The Commission want to see ideas which can be expandable and replicable, from Western Europe to Eastern Europe. These shouldn't be added as a bolt-on. This should be something which is integral to the proposal. Where relevant, the proposal should support UN Sustainable Development Goals and focus on the EU 2020 priorities. Many calls specify exactly where international activity is necessary, and also which countries, if there are any specifics which should be included, these will be included in the work programme details. So, evaluation tips: read the work programme, take in the details and make sure that you fulfil the eligibility criteria. It's such a waste of all the time that people put into writing a proposal if it's immediately found ineligible, and really there's no reason why this should be the case. Make sure you read the detail. If you're not sure, email me. If I'm not sure, I can ask. There's always people to ask, so just make sure that you read the work programme and that you're really sure when you are submitting your proposal. Don't neglect the balanced approach, the responsible research approach. Gender equality, sustainability, they do come into account when proposals are otherwise equal in evaluation. So you can read more in the general annexes about the different approaches to when proposals are given equal weighting. There is a whole procedure written in place, and this does vary depending on the type of action. But as I say, the gender equality and geographical spread is definitely important. You should make sure that your dissemination is not just about randomly disseminating results, but about reaching key stakeholders. So this should be really targeted. It's not just about giving out millions of flyers and hoping that they end up in the hands of the right people. So I'm sure you all know that already, but just to make sure that this is written down. Just make sure that it's clear. Again, make the proposal simple to read for the evaluators. So just make sure that there's no assumed knowledge. Get a researcher from a different department read it before you hand it in. Don't assume that the methods that you're going to use will be known to the evaluator. Make sure that everything that you include is clear, and so there can be no question about the value that you're bringing and about your proposed methods, your proposed impact plan. Nothing should be left to chance. The last couple of points are about EU added value and also societal impact. This is explicitly about EU citizens or benefits for EU countries as a whole. So this is people and society, not just Brussels. And as I mentioned before, any upscaling should be clearly detailed. There are different types of action, 5 different types in fact, and these influence the scope of what's funded, the rate of funding, and also it does affect the evaluation criteria, which is why I really recommend that you check the annexes for the criteria for the type of action for which you're applying. It also affects the minimum number of partners needed in a bid. So the 5 main types of action are research and innovation actions, RIA, innovation actions, IA, coordination and support actions, CSA, and 2 which I'll focus on less in this presentation, Annette co-funds and dual actions. Research and innovation actions, these are aiming to establish new knowledge, so new and improved technology, product, service, solution. They may include basic and applied research, technology, development and integration, testing on a small scale prototype. The minimum number of participants is 3, and this is the minimum number of distinct legal entities based in either member states or H2020 associated countries. Also, something which I want to bring your attention to is that if you go over the page limit, those pages are just blanked for the evaluators, so they won't see it. So there's no point in trying to cheat the system, because it just means the end of your proposal will be cut off and unclear. The limit applies to sections 1 to 3 of your proposal. Sections 4 and 5 are not included. And the evaluation is weighted equally between the 3 criteria. Innovation actions. These are aimed at producing plans and arrangements or designs for new and improved products. These are funded at 70%, except non-profit. They still have a minimum of 3 participants, and they still have a 70-page limit for sections 1 to 3. The impact criterion of this will be given a higher weight than in the other, than in research and innovation action evaluation. Coordination and support actions. This is really for mutual learning, so lots of network and coordination between programs in different countries. These only have a minimum of 1 participant and are funded at 100%. It's a shorter proposal, 50-page limit, and the evaluation is equal between the 3 criteria again. Annette co-funds, so these will be less relevant for you, I imagine. These are designed to support public partnerships, including joint programming initiatives between member states. So these are for funders to apply for. However, it's worth bearing in mind that later down the line, the funders will be putting out a call on this topic. So just to mark in your diaries and think about who might be applying, and to look out for calls on that topic a bit further down the line. Dual actions are combinations of the actions. So I think there's only one in 2019 in Societal Challenge 6, which is DT Transformation 7. It means that there are 2 options. So one option is a research and innovation action, and one option is a coordination and support action. You should not try to meet both criteria. You should choose one or the other. So please be clear which part you're applying for, and tailor your proposal as such. There are 4 focus areas, I believe, but 2 apply to Societal Challenge 6. That's DT, this digitising and transforming European industry and services, and SU, boosting the effectiveness of the security union. You will be able to see in the topic name when these are applicable. Right, moving on to the topics themselves. These are the migration topics. It's a migration call. There are 4 migration topics open this year. You can see the budget and the type of action available there. Migration 1. This is understanding migration mobility patterns, elaborating mid and long-term migration scenarios. This is a research and innovation action with 9 million euros available. So they're expecting to fund 3 million euro projects, although, as I say, this is not fixed, it's not guaranteed, this is just an expectation. Projects should focus on the gender dimension of this and also on minors unaccompanied or minors with their families. The impacts which the Commission are looking for are related to the drivers, attitudes and behaviours, so these should be identified in qualitative and quantitative terms. Scenarios and projections should be produced, and there should be definite cooperation with national statistical institutes and an improvement on Eurostat measures. Migration 3, social and economic effects of migration in Europe and integration policies. This is looking back to look forward a bit. Again, this is 9 million euros available for a possible 3 projects. Historical experiences should be taken into account. There is also a note in the work programme, so please do read this. There should be interdisciplinary research. The disciplines it specifically mentions are sociology, economics, history, anthropology, cultural studies and psychology, but of course others are welcome. The impacts that the Commission is looking for are an improved understanding of socio-eco effects of migration in EU countries and also an assessment of integration policies. So this should be clear in your proposal. DT Migration 6, addressing the challenge of migrant integration through ICT-enabled solutions. You can see this is a DT focus area topic, so digitally focused. This is an innovation action, slightly less money available overall, 8 million euros, but the projects are expected to be larger, so they are expecting to fund 3 to 4 million euro projects. This topic is aimed at improving communication between public administration and migrants. Proposals should look at best practices from member states and look at how there is potential to scale up existing successful experiences. The impacts that the Commission is looking for is an improved deployment of services for inclusion of migrants, so this inclusive aspect of societies, and obviously a measure of improved communication between public administration and migrants. Migration 7. This is the 4th migration topic, international protection of refugees in a comparative perspective. This again is 9 million euros, research and innovation action, 3 projects expected to be funded. This topic is aimed at the protection of vulnerable groups from abuse and exploitation, violence and discrimination, and relevant international organisations should be included. This is specified in the work programme. This means it should not just be research organisations in the university sense. Other private and public organisations should be included where relevant, where they're going to add to the proposal. Impacts expected are an evaluation of the process, discourses and outcomes of the planned UN Compact on Refugees and strategies for implementing this compact. So these should really be identified or clearly planned to be identified in the proposal. The Commission is hoping to strengthen the process of EU common asylum. Right, moving on to transformations. This is the second call. Quite a few topics in this one. and I just want to let you know that we will be going slightly out of order for this, so my colleague Conrad from HSE, who I will introduce shortly, can talk about the more humanities-focused topics in this call. So we will be going slightly out of order. DG Transformations 02. This is the transformative impact of disruptive technologies in public services. This again is a research and innovation action, slightly smaller, 7 million euros to 3 to 4 million euro projects. This is looking at disruptive technologies, so it covers blockchain, big data, Internet of Things, virtual and augmented reality, AI, etc. Proposals should pilot these technologies with multidisciplinary partners and stakeholders. So please make sure you take that into account. Proposals should develop business plans for long-term sustainability of these services. Sustainability is really important in this topic. Expected impacts, a pathway for introducing these disruptive technologies. So it should be clear how they're going to be introduced. New ways of providing public services, and an enhanced knowledge of digital democracy. Transformations 3, innovative solutions for inclusive and sustainable urban environments. This overall is 6 million available. Another research and innovation action, 2 projects anticipated to be funded. Proposals in this topic should link research, innovation and policy for new participatory and alternative growth models. And this in particular should advance the EU urban agenda and the SDG goals. So a focus on inclusive and sustainable urban environments. DT Transformations 7, the impact of technological transformations on children and youth, another digitally focused topic. This is a dual action, so there is a research and innovation action available and a coordination and support action available. The research and innovation action, 9 million available for that, potential 3 projects. There's only 1 CSA project anticipated to be funded. Please check the work programme for differences between these 2 actions. Check the general annexes. Make sure you are not tailoring your proposal to the wrong criteria. Proposals under this topic should develop and test robust methodologies for measuring and explaining long-term impacts of these technological transformations. So evidence-based models should be developed, identifying and analysing at-risk groups. Children and young people should be involved in the project, obviously carefully and ethically. And solutions should be proposed for building online resilience. Relevant stakeholders and practitioners should be informed. These proposals should contribute to better regulation and formulate solid recommendations. Overall, data, methods and knowledge base around this topic should be improved as a result of these proposals. Right, Transformations 13, which is the last topic that I'm going to talk about in this Transformations call, using big data approaches in research and innovation policy making. So this is just 1 million euro project anticipated to be funded. And this should obviously exploit big data to produce information on research and innovation activity. So this is producing information on R&I activity or performance, outputs and or impact. There should be a focus on either private R&I investments, public-private cooperation, or technology diffusion. The impact should be timely and diverse data on R&I activity and outputs, and this data should be able to be easily used to inform R&I policy making. Right, I'm now about to hand you over to the capable hands of Conrad Mould. He is my colleague at the Arts and Humanities Research Council, and he'll be talking to you about the following topics.
Right, thank you, Rachel, and good afternoon, everybody. Let's look at Transformations 4 first. The topic here is innovative approaches to urban and regional development through cultural tourism. 9 million euros budgeted for this topic, and they're looking at funding 3 projects at €3 million apiece. It's looking at addressing the knowledge gap on the phenomenon of cultural heritage tourism, and they want to understand its contribution towards cultural Europeanisation and economic and social development in Europe. The proposals will assess the effectiveness and sustainability of multi-level strategies, policies, trends and practices, and they're particularly interested in using place-based and participatory approaches. And they want special attention paid to minority cultures and regions. The impact that the Commission are looking for is to improve policies and practices, to provide strategic guidance, to develop innovative tools and methods, and ultimately to understand the impact of cultural tourism. So if we just look at Transformations 8, which is the societal value of culture and the impact of cultural policies in Europe, again there's €9 million available, and the Commission is looking to fund 3 projects at €3 million. And here we're looking at developing new perspectives and improved methodologies for capturing the wider societal value of culture. And here they're looking at how proposals can explain how cultural values are constructed in the age of social media, internet, and television across different socio-economic groups. And they'll be assessing the goals, strategies, and effectiveness of cultural policies and institutions. And the impact here is that they're looking for new methodologies for capturing the societal value of culture and innovative tools for measuring, understanding, and enhancing the impact of cultural policies. And they're hoping that it's going to improve statistical data and methods for capturing cultural impacts in cooperation with national statistical institutes, international organisations, networks, research infrastructures, and Eurostat. So the next one is DT Transformations 11, Collaborative Approaches to Cultural Heritage for Social Cohesion. This is €12 million, and they're looking to fund, again, 3 projects with around €4 million per project. They're looking here to improve access for insufficiently integrated social cultural groups through participative and collaborative approaches, and they're looking at societal and place-based memories. They're interested in collaborative tools and applications to help cultural tourism sectors and heritage institutions. The impact that the Commission is looking for is to foster diversity and social cohesion, to engage new audiences through cultural institutions, through the impact that cultural institutions will have on this new research and methodology, and then also to provide disciplines such as computing, design and the social sciences and humanities with new research tools. And then we're on to Transformation 16, Social Platform on the Impact Assessment and the Quality of Interventions in European Historical Environment and Cultural Heritage Sites. This is a coordinated and supported action. There's just €1.5 million available for this one, and they're looking at just funding 1 project at €1.5 million. This is specifically to look at guidelines on codes and ethics around the quality of interventions and the impact assessments. Proposals should be ensuring high quality interventions in cultural heritage and historical environments, and looking at harmonising standards of impact assessment, quality control systems. So the impact here is the coordination of various stakeholders, a multitude of stakeholders, development of toolkits, and contributing to innovative research agendas. And then finally, for me, it's Transformation 17, which is societal challenges and the arts. €9 million, again 3 projects at looking at €3 million per project. This is to use artistic perspectives to engage with the major societal challenges and search for alternative or unconventional solutions. And here they're looking at artistic entrepreneurship with links to cultural and creative industries, and how we can create connectivity between multiple stakeholders. The purpose of this topic, the arts, include painting, sculpture, photography, literature, poetry, music, dance, theatre, cinematography, digital arts, architecture, design, and crafts, but that's not exhaustive. The impact here is that the Commission is looking for artistic perspectives and innovative approaches to societal challenges, such as the one that Rachel alluded to earlier, which is inequalities, migration, climate, social justice. And they're also looking for test practices based on social inclusion and co-creation. And finally, for this one, we're quite interested in also looking at the relationship between art and democracy, and between art and individual or community resilience should be addressed. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Conrad. The final section is the governance call. As you can see, there are quite a few topics to get through, and we are running to a tight schedule. So I'm actually going to group the CSAs all together and do a whistle-stop tour through those, and hopefully spend a little bit longer, marginally, on the research and innovation actions and the solitary innovation action hiding in there. So, Governance 2, Past, Present and Future of Differentiation in European Governance. This CSA is one €1.5 million project, so that's quite a common threshold for the CSAs. I think 4 out of 5 of the governance CSAs are anticipated to be around this available budget. All of the CSAs are looking to establish research networks and really share knowledge across the member states, across member states and associated countries. This one in particular is looking to develop scenarios and models and mobilizing and linking experts and relevant stakeholders within this topic. Governance 16, Reversing Inequalities, a wonderfully short title, but this relates to the fact that inequalities have been rising substantially over the last 3 decades in Europe and globally, albeit varying significantly geographically and over time. CSAs here should be looking to advance European values and the European pillar of social rights, should be synthesizing the state of the research and facilitating improved data collection, and there should be solid policy recommendations made. Governance 17, this is Democratic Crisis, Resolving Socio-Economic and Political Challenges to Reinvigorate Democracies, another 1.5 million CSA. Now, this should examine the role of technology on participation, media and accountability, and propose means for enhanced participation in democratic processes. So it should be adopting a forward-looking perspective, taking stock of existing research on the evolution of democracies, and improving policy dialogues and narratives on the long-term dynamics of democracies, and it should be proposing methods to strengthen democratic governance. Governance 18, Innovation in Government, Building an Agile and Citizen-Centric Public Sector. This should involve peer learning and exchange of best practices between governments, so practical applications, system thinking and systemic transformations, experimentation, lots of stakeholder engagement, and developing and piloting practice-led reflections and learning programs to support governments in their role as change agents. The impacts expected are intergovernmental collaborative projects and new models of innovation and government. The final CSA in transformations is this €250,000 project, or roughly 250,000, a European social catalyst fund to scale up high-performing social innovations in the provision of social services. So this is to do what it says, upscaling social innovations in the provision of social services, closing the gap of geographical disparities in Europe where possible. That should be taken into account in any proposal. Please read the work programme in detail for more information about how beneficiaries can support third parties and how much the fund should be made up of those contributions. Right, to the research and innovation actions. Governance 1, trust in governance. This is another 9 million research and innovation action with €3 million projects expected to be funded. Participatory practices beyond electoral participation should be explored in this topic, and experimental research should be performed as relevant. The impacts expected from this topic are for the knowledge base on trust to be enhanced, including on factors determining changes in trust. So criteria should be developed and indicators for detecting decreasing trust, as well as measures to restore and improve trust in governance, and ideas on how to enhance the quality of democracy. Governance 4, enhancing social rights and EU citizenship. This should examine how European citizens have been exercising social rights, for example, to social protection, housing, health, education, etc., in the wake of the economic crisis. So proposals should assess EU social indicators such as the at-risk of poverty rate. There should be a historical and comparative dimension to topics in proposals in this topic, and SDGs should be considered carefully. The impacts expected are recommendations on the exercise of social rights as part of EU citizenship, and improved indicators on social exclusion, poverty. There should be a contribution to constructing narratives of European citizenship. DT Governance 5, new forms of delivering public goods and inclusive public services. Another digitally focused topic, a research and innovation action expected to fund 3 to 4 million euro projects. This should help to regroup resources under common infrastructures at the European level. Projects should enable the participation of all relevant communities. So proposals should be identifying gaps in accessibility solutions, establish best practices and promote training, awareness raising and capacity building. It's worth noting in the work programme it mentions a minimum of 6 relevant national administrations in at least 6 different EU member states or associated countries should be included. Again, please read the details. These kinds of things are clear when you read the work programme, but could easily be missed if you don't, and you will just be ineligible. The Commission are looking for forward-looking models for the co-delivery of public services. They would like trust in public institutions to be reinforced through a more open government approach, and proposals should support the Web Accessibility Directive. Right, SU Governance 10, drivers and context of violent extremism in the broader MENA region and the Balkans. Another research and innovation action expected to fund around 3 million euro projects. These projects should identify and analyse preventative measures such as strengthening moderate voices, fostering education and inclusion as tools for reconciliation. So they should be promoting online media literacy and countering radical propaganda. Expected impacts are to improve the knowledge base on violent extremism in the broader MENA region and the Balkans, and ensure mutual learning between the EU and third countries in light of common challenges. So should be looking at the commonalities between the countries involved, and please note that this should include at least one participant from a country in the MENA region or the Balkans. So please make sure those countries are properly embedded in your proposals. DT Governance 12. Sorry, I'm aware I am running slightly over, but I'll try and get this wrapped up as quickly as possible. This is pilot on using the European cloud infrastructure for public administrations. This is an innovation action. So proposals here should be taking advantage of high-performance computing capabilities offered by the European Cloud Initiative, creating new and reusable models, and really focusing on interoperability, so scalability of the models and analytical tools as well. So there should be analytical tools created, and projects should enable the reuse of common infrastructures and data sets, with co-creation being an important aspect. DT Governance 13, the final topic of today, you will be glad to hear. Digitisation, digital single market and European culture, new challenges for creativity, intellectual property rights and copyright. Another topic in the DT digital focus area. Has the digitisation of cultural works contributed toward the democratisation of cultural creativity? And have intellectual property rights helped or hindered this process? So there should be participatory research approaches used, targeted to specific creative and cultural sectors. What are the barriers for creative practice or culture-based business or employment opportunities? So the impact of this should be solutions, business models and concrete policy recommendations around these issues. Fairer accessibility of digitised cultural goods and services, and advice on the appropriate levels of harmonisation of copyright, where the ideal line sits. So to round off, some useful links for you are included here. I would particularly like to draw your attention to the online manual, which contains a wealth of information should you wish to access it. I am happy to help if you're not sure where to look. Please get in contact. My contact details are here. This is the Challenge 6 mailbox, so queries to do with Challenge 6. The Twitter is the same for Challenge 6 and embedding, and my phone number is also the same. So my name is Rachel Kelly. Please get in contact with any questions you have, and I will be happy to assist you. Thank you very much for listening so far.